Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Mangano, and I am very proud to be here tonight to open up this webinar to discuss the School District of Springfield Township Middle School, our renovations and addition project. This is so exciting to be representing our building in this manner and in this fashion, and thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening. I do have some important people we want to make sure we introduce, but first, just a little bit about what we plan to update you tonight about. We really want to make sure that we share with you how excited we are about the groundbreaking that's about to begin, considering our approvals and permits are all in place, which means we are ready to begin construction in mid-February. In fact, as early as this Friday, I will be attending a construction meeting with those involved on site. And so we're getting really excited as you'll begin to hear about our project a little bit. You're going to hear tonight from our design team that is here at tonight's meeting, which includes our district and building administrative team. Representatives from our construction management firm are also with us this evening. And I really want to point out that this will become a very important team and hub of people who will be communicating with our families and our students to keep people updated on the progress of how things are going. Tonight specifically is not only to provide an overview of the project timeline from February of 2025, which we're in, to December. Completion target date is December of 2026, with the hopes, though, of opening up a brand new, what we're going to call like new building, new schedule kind of phase in 2026-27 school year. So we have a lot of work to do. But tonight we're going to focus a little bit more on phase one, that first beginning phase of what's happening, including site preparations, safety measures, and how this construction from two lenses: one, the educational impact and student impact, as well as what does construction itself look like. So we're kind of merging those two worlds together because it will be business as usual in our middle school. So I also want to make sure that I mentioned that we're going to be hosting a series of meetings along the way. So this is the first opportunity where we will be checking in at least monthly. We probably will also be hosting some opportunities for families and teachers and students, just like Q&A, to be able to kind of ask questions and things of that nature. The bottom line is we're really looking at this as a reimagination opportunity from inside and out. I'm really, really proud, and I need to mention our building staff as they are riding this beautiful wave with us, as well as our students. So at this time, I want to make sure that I open up this presentation and introduce some of our team members who are here with us this evening. Can we go to our next slide? Thank you. So Doug, I'm going to turn it over to you for a moment to have you introduce yourself and give us a little bit about the project and some of our next slides as well.
Sure. Thank you, Amy. Yep. I'm Doug Taylor. I'm with CHA Consulting, and we are managing the project on behalf of the district. I also have Colin Case with us tonight. He's going to speak shortly about the details of the project, the phasing, and how we will address the construction activities on site. Amy, did you want to offer any more, or should I continue?
Sure. I was just going to say, I mentioned in the very beginning in the introduction in that these are two teams coming together. So tonight you're going to see our school district team, as well as Doug mentioned, the consulting and engineering team and the architect team all coming together. And again, really making sure we're thinking out ahead for our students while we undergo this project.
Thank you.
Sure.
So as I said, we are CHA Consulting. We're formerly known as Dewey Engineering. We've managed other projects on behalf of the district, and we're excited to manage this middle school additions and renovations project. It is a targeted renovation, so it's not the entire building, and Colin will be touching on that shortly. The design team consists of Schrader Group Architecture, who are the architects for the project, and working under them is T&M Associates, who designed the site work, Snyder Hoffman Associates, who designed the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, and Corsi Associates, who designed the new kitchen design. So a little bit about our team. I think it's important to note that we come with significant experience on phase projects. We have exceeded over 100 multi-year phase projects in occupied buildings, so we're familiar with how this project will look, how it will work with students and staff, and making sure that we're being mindful of education and students and what's happening around the project. All of those projects were completed on time or ahead of schedule with no impact to staff or students. We're very careful and mindful of this process. We have a proactive approach. We've done a lot of physical studies. We've identified a lot of concerns. We did significant homework up front to avoid surprises during construction. And we carefully prepared phasing plans by phase, which we reviewed carefully with the owner during the process. During that design process, we focused on three major items of importance. Environmental investigations to make sure that the building was free and clear of any items that would involve any kind of abatement. And if that were the case, it would be done without students in the building. I'm pleased to say that we found minimal environmental concerns as a part of this project. It's limited to some adhesive on some visual display boards or marker boards that will be removed when students are not in the building. We'll perform all our relative air clearances before anyone would return to those spaces. And again, will not affect students in any way. Site and building utilities, making sure that we maintain systems. We want to be sure that when we start doing the site work, that we're not interrupting utilities that serve the building that would interrupt the educational process. So we did a lot of physical investigations of where those utilities lived in an effort to minimize surprises in that regard. And separation of construction zones from educational spaces, being mindful of where the classes are taking place. We will have construction right next to classrooms, but we want to make sure that we have zones in place, and Colin will speak more to how that works. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the project, and I'm going to turn it over to Colin to let him continue. But from a site standpoint, at the top of the drawing is Bergen Road. Off to the right is Paper Mill, and at the bottom is 309. So as you come into the site from the top down and bend around the corner, you'll see a little blip of grass and a new parking configuration. We're going to be reconfiguring the parking in the area where the current Chevron parking is near the current main entrance. That will become a new parking lot and some storm drainage beneath the parking lot. Just below that, where the existing entrance is, will actually be an addition. We have a low incident classroom wing there, and that will become one of the classrooms within that wing. If you continue down the site as if you were coming down the bus drive, there is a new addition that's going to be infilled next to the library that will give you a sense of entry for the facility. We'll have new signage, wayfinding signage, and provide you with a sense of entry. And inside, next to that area, will be the new admin suite, so that there'll be a secure entry vestibule coming from that same space. If you come down to the bottom of the sheet, you'll see the green at the bottom. There's a vehicle emergency access to get around the side of the building. But above that, to the left, is the new cafeteria kitchen addition, and the larger portion of that is a new auditorium addition. And then you'll see a little thin line extending from the bottom along the jagged roof section next to the ball field. That is a physical connection to the music rooms, so that we have a physical connection between the auditorium and the music rooms for students to move back and forth. Off to the right is the baseball field. That will be the area that we use for staging for this project. So all construction activities will be limited to that lower right-hand corner from the outside of the building. The students will continue to use the track, the existing football field, the field hockey field. Those spaces will remain available during the entire process. So we're going to talk about construction staging and phasing, and I'm going to turn it over to Colin to take care of that.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Just to emphasize, really excited to be a part of this team and get this project started. really my focus on this presentation is to talk about all things construction and what, students may or may not see while they're actively at a school while it's under construction. So Doug, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So we always make sure we have a student and staff first approach and construction second. So anytime we develop a phasing plan with the district, we always make sure that students are always separated from construction. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do that. We also, Amy touched on, we're going to start having construction meetings with the team. Part of those meetings, we're going to start reaching out to the township and set up how we're going to perform inspections on the project, but also just start to build a really good relationship with the township and then the neighbors nearby. The district has been a great neighbor to all the local homes nearby, and as a construction team, we'd like to carry that through and make sure we keep a good reputation with everyone surrounding the project. This project, we always make sure we're very sensitive and responsive when any issues come up. There's always, construction is a little chaotic at times, but with our phasing plan, we try and reduce that to the best we can. However, if things do come up, we have such an experienced team, we can act quickly and get things resolved. However, we like to stay proactive at the same time. We have a lot of proactive measures in place. I'm going to talk about them a little bit in more detail as we continue through the slides here. We will have a very strong presence on the job site every single day. So there'll be strict reinforcement of any of the contract requirements, any safety programs, anything related to this project, will be on top of it. Like I said, we're going to work closely with the township and the other authorities having jurisdiction throughout the project while we perform inspections and have them in the building while it's under construction. We're very proactive on getting meetings held and continuing to communicate with all parties, the township, the district, staff, students, a presentation like today, and we'll carry those through the entire construction process. And then also we have a great support team. We have a great team from Schrader Group and all of their consultants who we have a great relationship with and have many successful projects with. And then we have a very strong group of leadership from the district that's involved with this project. And they're really leading the charge. I'm excited to get this thing started with them. Go ahead, Doug.
Colin, I just want to add in here too, when you mentioned being on site and you and Doug both being visible, we did have a presentation to the student body. So the students have all seen who Doug and Colin are. And I think that that's really important from the lens of a student perspective in knowing who people are that will be in their space that they live in, every day. I also want to mention that our facilities director, who's here at this meeting as well, it's important that these district people are also connected. So just so from a perspective of a parent, please know how closely these teams are working together so that students can be at ease as things are happening, in their space on a daily basis.
Thanks, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things we already started working on as far as that's planned in the project, things like traffic control, where our staging areas are and where they're going to be defined. And Doug touched it on already that we're going to have a fairly large staging area back where the existing baseball field is. That'll kind of be the home for the contractors. That's where all the materials are going to be stored. They're going to be locked trailers, locked sea containers, and then also totally surrounded. There'll be temporary fencing totally surrounding the construction areas that will be locked at the end of the day. So we'll make sure that we're coordinating that with the district before we even start laying out temporary fence. We will check with district staff and make sure, hey, if we need to make some adjustments that'll work better with the flow of buses and flow of traffic throughout the day, we can absolutely do that. So we're going to be proactive on getting those meetings scheduled and getting in front of it before things are already in place. And then also we're going to have weekly meetings, superintendent's meetings with contractors. And then we have bi-weekly meetings with the district folks and the entire team to just talk about all things construction, how the project's progressing, any issues that arise and continue to keep this project pushing forward. So, yep. Next one, Doug.
Thank you, Collins. And so I know we're here to talk about the first phases through the summer tonight, but I do want to mention, since we're talking about disrupting the baseball field, that at the end of the project in the final phase, we will be restoring the baseball field back to a nice new baseball field with dugouts and fencing. So it's important to note that as we move forward.
Thanks, Doug. So some of the things you typically see on job sites, we're going to have a decent amount of demolition going on in this project as we kind of, rotate around the building in the various phases. We have a strict construction waste management plan that'll be enforced, by our team. Each contractor is going to supply their own dumpsters. There's supposed to be daily cleanup happening every day, so the job site should never look like a mess. You should drive by and you should say, wow, what a clean, nice looking job site that is. And we'll be there to enforce that and make sure that's what you do see as you drive by the district. As I mentioned, there'll be chain link construction fencing and gates and entrances around the project. And those have been strategically planned with the district to work with the parent drop off, the bus drop off for students, and then staff parking as well and visitor parking. So that's been carefully planned ahead of this project before it was even out to bid. So we have that plan in place and now we're ready to execute.
And I'll also add to that emergency egress from any of the
Yep.
existing doors that might have been in that area.
Stuff. So some other things that we're going to be maintaining while we're on the job site. I mentioned construction entrances, but there's a lot of other erosion and sediment control measures that will be out on the project. So what these are is they're to make sure we keep the mud and dirt onto the job site and not onto the community roads or not onto the school district roads. So there's things in place like rock built, there's silt fence, there's going to be a temporary sediment basin as we do some geothermal work out on the ball field. And then all of these measures are not only enforced by our team, but we also have support from the Montgomery County Conservation District, who will be making periodic visits. They're making sure we're keeping things maintained. They're going to make sure we're keeping stuff off the road. So we have a lot of support from the local conservation district to not only enforce what we have in place, but also help us out if something does come up, because sometimes there are some issues with ENS control, and they're always offering assistance in any of that. But I think we have a great plan. Hopefully, we don't have any issues like that. Thanks, Doug. Next slide. Okay, some other things that happen on a job site. This year in particular, we saw a lot of issues with dust on our projects due to the lack of rain we had over the summer. So what's great about our front end documents is we write it right in the specifications that if there's ever a point in the project that we see a lot of dust around the job site from lifts driving around, anything construction related, that the general contractor is going to provide some measures of dust control. And essentially what they do is they bring out a water truck. They spray all of the any area of construction down that has mud and debris, and then our staging area, and that'll keep the dust down and keep it from getting airborne. So that's already brought in the job. Then also, hey, sometimes there is a truck that may get in some mud and drive out on the road. We'll make sure that gets broom cleaned if any mud does actually exit the job site, and we'll be there to enforce that quickly and make sure it doesn't cause a disruptance. As far as utility construction, Doug mentioned we did a lot of careful planning when we did the phasing plans for utilities. They're very important on a project. You always want to have a very detailed plan of when utility shutdowns are happening. And on this project, we do have a couple. We have a relocation of a natural gas line, a domestic water line, and some stormwater work. So those are all phased in a manner that it will not disrupt the school in any way. If there is any shutdowns required, we'll make sure they happen, when the students and staff are out of the building or over a weekend or on off hours, to make sure there's no disruptions. There will be some things you see as you're driving by throughout the project. There's a picture here of an underground chamber basin. This is for stormwater management. There will be 2 of these going in on the project, and they will be happening mostly over the summer. So, if you do see these going in, they're going to go over where the existing entrance is now. There'll be one underneath that parking lot, and we'll be doing that work over the summer. So when staff and students let out for the year, they'll come back and they'll have a brand new parking lot. You'll never even know it happened. So, that's just one thing we do as far as planning to make sure there's no disruptions. And I've talked a lot about construction phasing. So we have prompt site stabilization. So when we do tear up an area and we complete the work and we put it back, that it's going to be stabilized very quickly. We'll get it seeded and strawed and make sure that we get grass growing as quickly as possible. Our phasing plans have been carefully laid out, like I said, with traffic plans from the district as far as student pickup and drop off and parent pickup and drop off at the same time. So we have very carefully laid out plans, and we meet almost bi-weekly with the school district team to make sure everybody's on the same page, and we're continuing to communicate. And I'm sure at some point as we go through the process, we're going to say, hey, we can improve this plan, and we're going to do everything we can to improve it and just keep school going and going first and construction going second, and hopefully work in a harmonious way. So as far as inside the building, so you're going to wonder, hey, what's my student going to see when they're walking through the hallways, when I have construction on one side of the building and classes going on the other. So we did a very good job at carefully laying out construction and dust partitions. So essentially what they are is we're going to build a temporary wall, likely with a door on one side, that's going to go full height to the bottom of the deck in the building. So there'd be no possible way that dust can get out of that space while it's under construction. That barrier also keeps students out of the construction area. It keeps contractors out of the building because we're going to tell them, hey, at no point during the school day can you pass over to the occupied space. So that's already planned. And part of the project, we're going to make sure that these partitions aren't just a plywood sheet. They're going to get painted. They're going to look like a wall. You're never even going to know that there's active construction work going on the other side of it. They also help with sound. Sometimes there's noisy activities going on, especially during the demolition process. And what our job is to do is while we're on site, we're going to try and make sure that any of those any activities that create a lot of noise, we're going to try and get those to happen early in the morning or after school's out so we don't cause any disruptions. We've also worked really carefully at taking a look at when there's any testing throughout the school year, and we make sure we're telling contractors to work second shift during that period so there's no disruptions during critical testing times. We're going to have an active indoor air quality monitoring and reporting throughout the project, and we've done baseline testing, and that way we know, if there is an issue, we have something to compare to what it was prior to us starting. We're going to set up a badge process with the school district, so each contractor is assigned a badge. There's very strict clearances that contractors have to submit before they're even allowed on the project. So we're going to have our first pre-construction kickoff meeting, and we're going to walk through all these items and establish a really good process and making sure that we know who's exactly on this job site, what badge number they are. That way, if there is ever an issue, we can quickly identify those folks and remove them from the project. So, we don't expect anything to come up. I've never in my career had to do that. We always have a great team of construction workers, and we have a really good team that we got bid results from. So I'm very excited to work with this group of contractors. Well done.
And just to touch on that piece with the clearances part, I know that for family's sake, just so everybody understands, our main office works very, very closely. So there are two incredibly talented secretaries in the front who pretty much have a pulse on anything and everything that happens. They have been looped into a level. We meet with them. We fill them in as to what's happening. Our school counselors are highly involved. Our school security team is highly involved. So there's layers of people that have full awareness of what's happening, again, to make sure that we're all on top and working together to keep, Colin, as you said, school, construction. But safety is paramount for us throughout all of this and just in general. So I just want to make sure, families are aware that that's something we take very, very seriously.
Thank you, Amy. I guess one other thing I want to add is the photo on the left actually represents what those temporary partitions look like from the school side. They are also insulated, and we have introduced negative air pressure on the other side. So we're pulling dust away from the interior of the building. So that's another benefit to the partitions. And I think that covers it.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, one more quick thing, and I know Kieran's going to go next. So every time I do an interview for a construction management RFP, I always get the question, hey, what happens if there's a contractor who's acting in an unsafe manner or is not behaving properly? What happens? Well, it's very simple. They get removed from the project. So if there was anything that ever came up, they're out. No ifs, ands, or buts. So, we always get that question. So I like to throw it out there to make sure everybody understands the process.
Thank you.
I know, Doctor.
Thanks. I know, Mrs. Brady, I know you're going to go, and I just wanted to introduce you because you've taken a real high interest from so many levels of your position, not just as an assistant, but with activities and athletics, and really kind of, really jumping in and taking a huge lead on things. So thank you for that. And I know you want to talk specifically a little bit about, let's talk about the kids and the impact there. So I just wanted to make sure to give a shout out to you. You've done a really great job with this.
Thank you, Dr. Mangano, and kind of going back to what Dr. Mangano was saying about keeping school. So we do a lot of fun activities at the middle school. Our students are highly involved in many different things, and as Doug was talking about, there are some areas that are going to be impacted, but our goal is to make sure that everything that we do that makes the Springfield Middle School, that we're going to continue to do that. We're just going to have to make adjustments as needed, but we're going to make sure that those things happen. So, for example, the spring musical There's going to be some construction work happening on our gym stage where that musical usually takes place. We've been working really closely with the high school to move our rehearsals for the musical up to the high school, and the spring musical will be taking place at the high school auditorium, and we really appreciate their help making this happen for us. And that's in addition to our baseball season. The baseball area will be staging for the project, and I've been working closely with Joe Ferraro at the high school, the athletic director up there, and they have been fantastic helping us figure out a way to continue with our baseball program and all of our practices and our the high school JV field this spring. When it comes to gym classes, they will still have use of our gymnasium and those lower fields, as Doug was saying. Students will not have access to that gymnasium stage, outdoor basketball court, or the Gaga pit, since work will be happening around those areas. The fitness center will be closed after spring break, and that's just to prep that area to get it ready for some work that's going to be taking place over the summer. And a lot of our special events that take place at the end of the year, our picnic, our color day, all of those things are going to still be taking place. We'll be making some adjustments as needed, maybe tapping into the high school if some additional space is needed. But everyone's been pitching in, ready to help and make sure that our students have the best possible experience and have all of those special events that they've been looking forward to in their middle school careers.
Thank you, Karen. So we're going to talk about the phasing plans, the construction staging and phasing. I'm going to turn this over to Colin again to touch on this, but this is just going to be from now through the summer. There are other phases that we'll revisit with you to give you an update as time moves forward.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Doug. So the first couple of phases, 1A and 1A.1 and 1A.2 are very simple. 1A.2 is the auditorium addition. That piece of the building, if you're looking at this from your seat, will be happening throughout the entire span of the project. So as soon as we start out here, we're going to start working on some utilities outside, and that's in preparation to start that addition. So as we go through the phasing, that auditorium addition piece is going to be going throughout the project, and it's going to start in March and continue until the end of August. Now, the first piece is 1A.1, which is converting the existing stage into the new fitness and LGI. So that is the first piece of the project, and that's already actually started because the district has already been great enough to move out of that space, and we'll be starting that area to renovate sometime in March. Awesome. So from a building standpoint, from a site perspective, as we mentioned before, in the bottom area that's our staging area where the existing ball field is. So we'll be out there throughout the entire project until we get towards the end and we restore it to an active baseball field. We can see the auditorium addition kind of at the corner of the building. That'll be happening from February through August. And then in the top right corner, the June 25 to August 25, that's where we'll be working on an underground storm basin. That'll only be summertime work, or once students and staff are out, we'll work on that area, put that underground basin in, put it back for the rest for the 25-26 school year. And then from there, we'd move over to the front where the current canopy is for the bus drop. We'll be working in that area. That's for the addition and reno of the existing fitness center, and then where the new entrance will be, and that'll run from June 25 to December of 25.
I think the only other thing that I'll add to this slide is when we did and we're still wrapping up the small project over by the track, the township had asked that we provide a planning buffer between the homes at Bergen Road and the track area portions of the site. That was agreed to be provided, but we put it into this project for economic reasons. So where you see the April 2025 and the little green trees along the top, there will be some planning buffers added between the homes and the district property this spring.
Thanks, Doug. Awesome. So kind of continuing through the building, like I said, 1A.2 is the auditorium addition, so that'll be happening throughout the project. Coming to the summertime in June 1st through August, we're going to be moving over to phase 1B, which is renovations to the special services room. Also, there's an existing stair there that we're going to add it. We're going to install an ADA ramp down to the library, so we have ADA access to that space. That's going to be happening just over the summertime. Miss Brady and I have already been working with the library to make sure there's little disruption to the library space as we get started on that area, keeping books protected. And then from there, we're going to jump over to some selective toilet room renovations and also renovations to the existing fitness center, the existing stage on the cafeteria side that we're going to turn into the new admin suite and new main entrance. And that'll run from June to December of 25.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Kieran. At this time, that concludes what we wanted to present to you, which I believe is just, again, to make sure we provided that sense of what's coming up next, what can we expect to be, coming out of with when we start school next year in terms of that new fitness center, a few new classrooms, some renovated classrooms, and an entire low incidence suite. So there's stages and phases along the way. And again, the least amount of disruption while kids are in session, and then setting up, obviously, appropriately, keeping that construction piece separate. So. And I just also want to thank Dr. Yannicone and Dr. Johnson for being here this evening as well. This project, please know, has taken on life now, but it began long before I ever arrived, and there's been so many people involved in that design portion of this. So I think, please know that the work has been in progress for quite some time, and we're just now, as Colin said, getting ready to see it come to fruition, which is really exciting, and it's a pleasure to help lead that. At this time, I have I know we have a question box available if anyone has questions or comments, or if anybody else from our team needed to chime on in and add anything else at this time.
I'll just, first for a moment, if we're waiting for questions, first of all, thank our representatives from CHA Consulting, Doug and Colin, for all of your hard work in getting us ready for this exciting next phase of the process. Now that we're done with design and approvals and moving into construction phase, I want to thank Dr. Mangano and Mrs. Brady for all of your work in weekly meetings that we've been having to make sure that our staff feel informed and part of the process, and our students feel informed. For those of you who are on the call, we appreciate your attendance. Please spread the word, and I know Dr. Mangano is going to include a link to this presentation in her newsletter so that members of the community who would like to study this more closely are welcome to do so. And then if you have questions about the project at any time, please direct those questions to Dr. Mangano, and then she will speak with Mr. Watley, our Director of Operations, who's also on the call. She'll speak with me if she needs to, if it's a district-wide question. And she's in regular contact with Doug Taylor, who's our construction manager. And so I want to make sure you have that information.
Dr. Yannicone, can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
We do have a question. Doug, I know you mentioned the answer to this, but could you talk about it again? There's a question from our audience around whether or not asbestos is a concern. And I know you mentioned that briefly earlier. Can you just talk about that again?
Sure. Yeah, we had the district's environmental consultant come in. They have a HERA reporting that's part of their regular services that are required by a district. So we had the report from the district. We had the consultant come in and perform additional testing at all of the areas that we anticipate disrupting as part of this project. All of those tests of the materials that we looked at behind walls, above ceilings, where we're performing demolition, came back negative, meaning we didn't have any signs of any asbestos-containing material. We did, however, find asbestos-containing material only in the adhesive that holds the chalkboards or old blackboards to the wall. So that's a blob of hardened material between the board and the drywall. The contractors will protect those areas. Again, when students are not in the building, they'll remove those boards and the wall board that it was attached to, and we'll do our air sampling and get clearances that it is safe to return for contractors, and then obviously safe for students as well. But that will all happen on weekends or after hours when there are no students in the building.
Thanks, Mr. Taylor.
Sure.
Are there other comments or questions from the audience? You may also raise your hand.
Sorry, let me actually enable raise hand for attendees.
Oh, great. Thank you.
There you go. Now you can raise your hand.
I'm not seeing any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. Again, just would like to thank everybody for joining us this evening. We will absolutely have information published in our newsletters, and we will absolutely make sure that we continue to have informational meetings and Q&A sessions. Always happy to have people reach out and email, call, whatever is best for you. We are more than happy to guide everybody through the process. And please know we keep the kids informed pretty much every day. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here tonight.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.